everyone, it's Helen again, and here we are, day 5 already. We're nearly halfway through, but hope you're getting on with this okay. If you've got any questions at all at any point, then please just drop me a message. Anything that you need clarifying, I'm more than happy to go through anything, but hopefully, certainly the first few bits are starting to make a little bit more sense now, and maybe you're feeling that you're getting a little bit more out of them. We're going to add on another move today, so let's get started. We'll start, as we do, with our prep. Feet about hip distance apart, allow for any natural turnout, lift the pubic bone, open up those hips, elongate that spine, lightly engage those abdominals. If that hasn't happened automatically, the chin is drawn in. We're open across chest and upper back, and from here, we just start to sway that weight forward and back. Just a little bit. It's quite mesmerising this sometimes, actually. We're keeping that chin slightly drawn in. Now, even as we sway, press down in order to elongate and lengthen up. And again, as always, we're just doing this little sway to try to recognise whether there's any change. So if you really think in and connect with the sensations that come from those deeper abdominals, from the ribs down to the hips, from the breastbone down to the pubic bone, just notice that little tensioning and releasing as you sway forward and back. And then gradually reduce and bring it back to center, so you're standing directly above your instep, no excess weight forward or back, and simply moving into your side bend. So as always, we're looking to open up the length at the side of the body, keeping the weight placed evenly. Just watch for that rolling out and in. And from these side bends, we bring it back to center in order to move into our foot pedals. So we take arm and opposite leg, we lift and we switch. Now you could do, if you want to, just by way of a change, is take both arms up. Now, you have to think about this, because now you have to switch so that the arms are coming up on the other softening knee. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe it's too much to think of this close to Christmas. Don't know. Okay, and then bringing it back to center. And from here, we're going to move into our hip hinge. So just moving from there and squeezing it back up again. Now, just before you all write in and complain, I do realise that we haven't done the chest expansion and the head turn, because I added in the double arms instead. It was just a variation on a theme. If you don't want to do it, you can go back to the expansion that we did. Doesn't matter. That's it. So we keep that length, front edge of the body. Think about the breath. Think about where you're placing the breath. Remember, the world doesn't end if you breathe in when I say breathe out and breathe out when I say breathe in. That's not too much of an issue, but you do need to breathe in through the nose. You do need to be taking your breath into the fullness of the rib cage. And on these, you should definitely be squeezing your little bottom as you come back up again. Let's do just one more. And then we just go into a few little shoulder rolls, just a little few shoulder shrugs in each direction before we move into our squats, going back to the hip hinge we did a moment ago and adding on. So what you do with your arms is your own business. We hitch a little, we bend those knees, we drive the hips back, we change our mind, and we stand straight back up again. Important that we maintain all the same curvature of the back of at the back of the spine, and that includes the neck. Important that we keep the weight as evenly placed as possible, and that those knees track second and third toes as you bend. So this is your picking something up off a floor thing. This is your getting something off the bottom shelf at the supermarket position. This is your taking something out of the bottom of the oven position. Okay, all of those deepening to stand movements. Really important. All the way back up this time and moving straight into our second balance, strength and balance move, which is our tandem stance. So one foot directly forward of the other, and just take care that you haven't turned your feet outwards in any way. You are directly one heel, one toe behind the other, because immediately that throws you off balance. So we keep that weight centered. We squeeze a little into the inner thighs. We want to put a little bit more weight towards the forward edge. We know that we're going to sink our weight backwards otherwise, and you definitely want to avoid sinking your weight outwards. So find that little bit of balance. The chin is still drawn in. Perhaps lift the pubic bone just to elongate that low spine. And then if it works for you, taking that forward arm, corresponding arm to the forward leg, into that rotation. Moving at the ribs, letting the hips and the other arm stay as close to forward as possible. Let's just do one more here. Lovely. And then bringing it back to center, simply changing the forward leg. We do have wobbly days and wobblier days, so you know, if you find that one day it goes great guns and then the next day it seems like it's all gone to complete rubbish again, then don't worry about it, because it'll come back. It'll come back. We do have these kind of days. All right, so don't be too despondent if you get very wobbly when you think you're making progress. And as I keep saying, if it doesn't work for you to add anything more than simply the balance, then just work on the balance. You can't really add anything on until you've got at least an element of balance. Ooh. And I always like to think that wobbling is good. Wobbling is a good thing because it's forcing your body to react to being off balance, off center, to look and search for its center of gravity again, to try and keep you upright. So wobbling isn't the issue. Recovering from the wobble is the issue. And back to center and release. Give those legs a shake out. Bring yourself down onto your mat as we go into our backstroke movement. Love this movement. I know I say that every time, but I really do. It's a simple movement, seemingly, but it has a lot of elements. So as always, take a moment or two to set yourself up into position. The pubic bone is forward. The ribs are open and soft, only moving with the breath. The arms rest on the floor at the side of the body. I like to press the pubic bone forward in order to open up those spaces and to create the natural curve of the low spine. Feet and knees are hip distance apart. And just again, by opening up those spaces, you may find that automatically you've created a slight tightening around the center of the body. Keep that, okay? Or you can consciously apply a slight corseting effect, as if you're trying to bring your hip bones a little closer together. Pelvis stays very level and still as we move into arm and opposite leg. If we had a bowl of water resting on the belly here, the bowl of water would stay absolutely still, not a ripple on our bowl of water. The ribs, of course, stay soft, but we are looking to open up in that space of the underarm into the side ribs. And of course, remember, if you need a little something behind the back of the head in order to extend the length of the back of the neck, then that's fine, but don't go mad. Don't want a big squashy pillow under there. Now again, for a variation, and assuming that you can do this beautifully, you could, if you wanted to, add on the weight of the second arm. So taking the weight of the second arm as you take one leg forward. And again, you might be choosing to press out through the heel and coming back with a point. We're not looking to get the hands on the floor. Hands just go, or the arms I should say, just go to the corner of the eye. And the heel stays off the floor as well. So there's no brushing the heel along. That just creates a resistance and a traction that sometimes can cause you to jolt around the pelvis. So we keep a small gap between the limbs. It's the movement and the weight of the limbs that's challenging the stillness everywhere else. Make this the last one. And then bring it back to center, bring those hands back down onto the floor at the side of the body. Hopefully we should be exactly where we started from. Still got that length front edge of the body. Now we're going to go into an alternate knee float. So we're going to peel the right foot from the floor, just allowing that right knee to come directly above the hip. So we create an upright thigh like a drain pipe, and we've got about a 90-degree angle-ish in the hip. And then bring that foot back down. And once the foot's down, and not beforehand, once the foot down, then we can bring the second leg up. So this is a single alternate knee float. And we can do all sorts to add on to this, and perhaps as we go through, we will add on a couple of bits and bobs just to add a little bit more challenge into it, and to give those of you that perhaps a little bit more experienced something else to think about. But this is the base movement. So as with the extension of backstroke, okay, we want to keep this pelvis still. So the idea of bringing the foot from the floor isn't to flatten the back in and isn't to pull the knee all the way through. As you bring the knee up, keep the pubic bone gently pressing away. Not diving down, just pressing away. And what I'd really like you to do as you practice this is try to recognize how the foot almost feels magnetized to the floor, so that when you come to lift it up, it's almost like you're trying to pull against a resistance. Now keep those arms long. That little bit of extra length in those arms will apply a little bit more depth into the corset of the deep abdominals. So again, the floating up, the floating down of the legs is the weight and the movement that challenges the stillness of the torso. So remember again, this is your basic movement. As we move on, we might add into this, but for those of you that have less experience, or perhaps it's not appropriate for you to add a lot more weight in, this is where you'll stay, because this on its own is a fabulous little movement. And then we're going to bring it all the way back down this time. Release those arms, maybe just let your hips roll a little bit from side to side. And then carefully rolling over onto the side of the body, bring yourself up, because that is day 5. Well done. Any questions, give me a shout. I'll see you tomorrow.